Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things. In the second part of the conversation with Rohit Salecha, we are going to talk about what next from a career perspective, from a personal and personality development, as well as how he plans to give back to the society. And he also shares some of the key things that he has learned over a period of time. And I love the fact that when he looks at security, he looks at every layer of the functionality. Listen on. When I was reading this, right, one of the questions I was having is, as well as when you're talking about having an electronics background, have you done this sort of a thing in an IoT or a middleware sort of an environment, or are you looking at doing something like that, more in the integration
No,
space?
no. Currently, I have no. I like. I think the only thing I've done with embedded systems was develop a robot during my 6 months diploma that I did after I completed my engineering. I just developed a simple robot that does some turnings and stuff like that in C. That's it. But yeah, nothing other than that.
Because that is the area where I think movement is happening, either in the integration space of ML or ML AI, where you're actually bringing all the different data elements together, or in the other side where you're actually sensors adding more, you want to call it IoT sensors or whatever, right? You actually, and then all of them have to go into the pipeline. If you think about it, right? Either you
Mhm.
integrate the in a lower or a middleware sort of a thing. And so I was wondering, where is your next level up going to be?
So next level up, like here at Disney as well, like uh, something that I want to now look at is strengthening my leadership skills, working on my leadership skills, because now I'm getting in an engineering manager kind of a domain. But that is a non-technical part of it. From a technical part of it, I think my next my next venture would be in uh, uh, maybe W3 space, Web3 space, right? Because that is again something I yet don't understand completely, and that is going to be the next big thing, I feel.
I mean, last month when we were doing a conference about Meta, in fact, Meta says that Web3 is the level 3. If you remember the stack, TCP/IP stack, right? In fact, they're saying Web3 is going to be one of the level 3 to give you
Yes.
experiential learning, experiential. A lot of applications are there. So I always used to think Web3 as a module that will enable blockchain and kind of give more person-to-person authentication and stuff. But it's a lot to learn unless you have your hands on.
Yeah.
Like what you said about Kubernetes, right? Unless you have your hands on, it will.
Yes.
Each of us will have our 7 blind men around the elephant. Each of us will say
Yes,
different.
exactly. Exactly. That was the situation I faced while learning DevOps and while learning cloud again, right? Nobody was tying things together, right? So in both my project and my book, I'm just tying them together. That's it. Like all these most commonly used technology, and the reason why I learned it also is because uh, being in the security field, I need to know about these technologies, right? I cannot talk or I cannot recommend about these technologies without really knowing them.
Agree. See, Rohit, I think one of my first projects in the DevOps space was actually coding with Ansible. And
Yeah.
I mean, my hardest was actually bringing in a developer machine. So while it may sound very simple, right? But it took so much of software that we install. And one of my first challenges was to set up using just scripts, so that as we
Hmm.
onboard more and more people, it's going to be faster and quicker. And we have one, blueprint. And the best part about that whole cycle was, in the end, we were able to go to production with just one click. I mean,
Oh,
while it may sound simpler, yeah, sure, production, how often are we going? We can go multiple time. We can have those manual steps, but it brings a lot of integrity into how we do things. I think I love it, Rohit.
right.
So apart from getting into Web3, I like what you're talking about from a people side of things, mentoring, coaching, and developing
Right.
people. What are you doing in terms of, I mean, what has been your aha moments when you became a manager or from an individual contributor, Rohit?
Yeah. So one thing is um, the manager is responsible for the entire culture of the team, right? The culture and the overall experience of working in an organization for the individuals, right? He or she is the person who needs to what you can say build the entire the ambience and the culture and the entire I don't know how to put that, but basically make things good for people to to be able to work in the most efficient manner, right? uh, that's what is something that I have learned. And second thing is um uh, that when you make things transparent with the people, right, is what drives the culture. So what I would say is transparency drives the culture, and this is where the managers come in, and they need to ensure there is complete transparency across in terms of metrics, deliverables, goals, what each person should be doing, and so on, right? This is what makes a good team basically to work.
So, I mean, you speaking about a leader, the team actually becomes a long shadow of the leader. That is very often quoted as aspect of it. I totally agree with. So, in the see, while we have the whole pipeline for enterprise systems and everything, right? How do you get developers or team members who are joining in get quickly productive? How particularly in the COVID era, where all of us are working in a hybrid or a completely online version of it. How are you managing?
Yeah, so it depends on at the experience level of the individual who's joining. So if is just a fresher, or maybe 2 or 3 years experience, but who knows scripting and who is quite active with software development, right? It's best to start giving them proper tasks with proper deliverables, right? That I need to do this, I need this output, right? And ensure that that guy does, and be there for that person whenever they need help. If there is someone who is slightly senior, maybe 4 5 years experience, who's joining the team, then to that person you need to give them a problem, that this is a problem I have, help me solve it, right? This is a problem, please, let's make a roadmap out of it, right? Like, how can we solve this particular problem, right? So tasks and problems is what I would give uh, for people to get started with. Of course, they should get well oriented with the company, with the organization, with the culture and everything at the first place, before they get operational.
And another that I can think of is the stakeholder management, ability to manage
Yes.
stakeholders, right? Particularly for not for folks who are new to the new to the whole career, but at least 4 5 years experience, they should know how to manage scopes.
Yes.
How do you manage
Yes.
stakeholders? I
Yes.
think often
Yes.
relationships break, not because of the
Yes.
code or not anything else, right? It's primarily
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's not well understood.
Stakeholder management.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm totally loving this conversation, Rohit. I know and in the interest of time, would you like to share any wisdom, if you will, to our listeners who are in the same path as you?
So one thing I can uh, I don't think I can share much, but one thing I can say is embrace coding, because when I was in college, like there was hardly like 5 or 10% of the people who enjoyed coding, right? And the remaining people would, just they would just want to avoid coding, and they landed up in marketing and finance and different. Of course, to each his their own, right? No doubt in that. But what I feel is coding is going to become extremely generic, right? It doesn't matter which domain, which field you are in, right? If you can, if you can learn to code, uh, like few like last year, I read a blog where someone had set up an entire customer relationship management system in G Sheets, only
Wow.
in Google Sheets,
Okay.
right? Like no software, no nothing, right? Absolutely free. Right? That is amazing, right? That's what brings the entire output, and focusing, and basically that will come when you're focusing more on the outcomes rather than the outputs, right? So I would say is, just start learning coding, right? Like anything that interests you, any technology that interests you, no matter which field you are in, just start learning code. Because if you don't learn to communicate with the machine will overtake you someday or the other.
Excellent, Rohit. I love the whole part about where you're speaking about embrace coding, creating a love for coding, and think about it as a task when you start off, and then move towards outcomes, towards what is the impact that you're creating. Excellent. So I have a couple of questions around community creation, right? See, one is you spoke about Null. I know Railgirls, a lot of those communities are there. Just wanted to understand, while you're learning, how much is the community impacting, creating, having that community, being able to, you know, share your learnings as well as learn from others. And are you part of some community that you can share with our listeners?
So I'm that is something I would say I've not been much into, because participating in community requires a lot of dedication, right? It requires people who participate in these communities. They have this fire to teach people, to mentor people, right? Outside of their comfort zone, their office hours, and everything. But unfortunately, I've never really found that that dedication or that fire yet to do that, right? But I do intend to start someday, somehow. But I would say I've not really participated much in community as such.
Okay, okay. Because you were referring to null community, so that's why I was referring whether you are active in part of those conversations, as well as because as a technology, right, particularly in the DevOps space, things are constantly evolving. Not the software part
Yes,
of it, but
yes,
the practices. How do you do it? I think how can you get better than the hacker, right? And I
yes.
mean, I think that is the hardest part. So that's why I was asking, how are you managing that area?
No, so that's what I said. That is something I'm lacking, is what I can say.
Okay,
Um, some that is maybe an improvement area for me
okay,
to work on more community participation. So yes, there are a lot of, so in Mumbai also there are null community meetings and stuff like that. Uh, uh, I've never participated much. I once gave a presentation on secrets management during the COVID time, which was online. And you can say that yes, working from home has made me a bit lazy as well. So don't want to, go out.
Not just you, all of us, Rohit. Let me be very honest.
Yeah, because I started at Not So Secure. One of the biggest pullers for joining Not So Secure was also it was a work from home opportunity, and it was 2016, right? And when I used to tell people here, hey, I work from home, they were you know they used to look at me with open eyes, like, oh wow, you work from home, right? So so yeah, so I would say laziness is one more factor why I'm not much into community as yet.
Okay. I actually have a question around certification. I know you have had lots of certification, and some of these certifications has really made you as who you are, and built that as a building block, right? So, what is your take on it, and how has that helped you?
So, certification from an individual, so I'll talk about it from two perspectives, individual's perspective as well as from an individual working in a consulting organization's perspective, right? So, an individual working in a consulting organization, for him doing certification is basically beneficial both for the individual as well as for the organization, right? Because they can show the credentials that that person has the basic understanding of what that technology is, right? If I'm saying I am a certified Kubernetes administrator, right? I at least know what is running in Kubernetes and I know what needs to be checked and stuff like that. Like, it's not that I'm totally blank about Kubernetes, right? Uh, uh, so yeah, so certifications, especially for consulting organizations, it's a it's a win-win situation for both an individual as well as the organization, right? But for someone who is maybe not working in an consulting organization, but working in an industry like how I am, right? Like entertainment industry, right? For them, it's more of a stepping stone to understand the basics or understand the technological terms that are used often, right? If And certification basically gives a proper path to learn and to understand those terms and get oriented with the general technology. But being certified does not mean that you will be able to work on that technology from day one, right? Like, someone who has just done his CKAD or CKA, right, will definitely not be able to work in a already running Kubernetes environment, that is already set up, right? Or maybe not be able to set up an entire Kubernetes environment all by himself or herself, right? It will be a big challenge, right? Of course, it will take time to learn, but yes, what from what I can conclude is certifications will basically give you the basic will basically make you oriented with the basic terms, technologies, and processes for that particular technology, so that at least you are somewhat on the same page as those who have already done and dusted that setup.
Okay, okay.
It's like it gives you it what I can say is basically gives you the right to possibly stand on the shoulders of the giants with whom you'll be working.
Awesome, awesome, Rohit. Thank you. I think that's super helpful. Yeah, because sometimes many people in the software industry, it's also used as a curse where they say, okay, I have this certification, I have that certification. It becomes like a bragging right. As long as that is
Yeah,
not there, it's more
yeah.
of understanding it and then building on top of it. I think that is my philosophy. Saying you have invested,
No,
it means
so
that it also shows that you're investing in your own learning journey. But as long as that is, I
yes.
think that makes sense. Okay.
Certification as a bragging rights is absolutely nonsensical, in my opinion.
True, true, true. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Rohit. I really, really appreciate your time today. And I loved talking about your own journey in terms of starting as a developer, moving into security, now looking at it from an end to end, creating that view of creating a lab as well as having a book and ensuring that your team comes up to speed in terms of creating a great culture. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gayatri. It was really a great opportunity. I've never spoken so much with anyone about my career yet.
You should. I think you're a great inspiration, Rohit. Absolutely. You should. Stop
Thank
the
you.
record.
Thank you, Gayatri.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.